The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today. Today, we are again joined by our special guest, Dr. Stephen J. Ducat. Dr. Ducat is an author, political psychologist, psychoanalyst, and former psychology professor in the School of Humanities at New College in California. Dr. Ducat holds a doctorate from the Wright Institute in Berkeley, California. He completed his psychoanalytic training at the Psychoanalytical Institute of Northern California and holds licenses as a psychologist in both California and Oregon. He has a book, Hatreds We Love, The Psychology of Political Tribalism in Post-Truth America, that could be found on Amazon.com, and a Substack, Minding Politics, and that could be found at mindingpolitics.substack.com. And the Nova Society highly recommends checking out Dr. Ducat's work and supporting it. All right, Brooke, let's go on. All right, what else do we got, Brooke? Last one.
All right, and we have a question from Trudy, who lives in Augusta, Georgia. And Trudy asks, so Marjorie Taylor Greene is leaving Congress on January 5th, 2026. No great loss there. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been a Trump super supporter for some time now. She also says she will not seek re-election in 2026. Now, there has been a lot of speculation as to why she has made this decision. So I'd like to know the panel's take. Did she come to her senses, or is there some political advantage she is seeking when Trump is finally gone? Excellent question, Trudy. Thank you for asking. And Stephen, Scott, Mark, what do you have?
I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene discovered what many of us could see from the very beginning, that loyalty in Trump's world is one way. Everyone owes it to him, but he owes it to no one. He can behave with what looks like loyalty to those around him, but only when and if they are giving him what he wants, money, power, votes, or adoration. The moment any of those benefits are withdrawn, the person gets marked as an enemy. And as a consequence, you can be subject to political pressure, legal punishment, death threats, or all of the above. And, I don't know what Marjorie Taylor Greene's long game is, but it seems like, she has figured out what had been obvious to most of us from the very beginning.
I would say that I don't care what her motivation is necessarily. I don't particularly care for the woman. And I'll say this also. She's been hated by people on the left since she entered the scene. It's got to be coming up on 10 years now, right? And she never had to go out and get bodyguards and security details. She runs afoul of Trump for less than a week. And she's scared to her wits. She's got to hire a security detail. She's getting death threats all over the place. That's the biggest difference to me between people on the right and people on the left. We on the left here, we don't generally go for Second Amendment solutions to every problem that we have, and on the right, it seems like that's more and more prevalent.
Well, let me just say this: if I did not have on my bingo card that I would be saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene was actually making sense. There was no way I could have possibly believed that was possible, that she would be the sane one in the Republican Party. I'm sorry, not something that I could have possibly predicted, although we are very bad at predicting on this show anyway. Scott's correct. I think Stephen is correct too, in the sense that she saw the handwriting on the wall. There's a lot of things that happened in Dalton, Georgia before this decision to release the Epstein files. And the big one was that plant, that Hyundai plant, and a lot of her constituents were not happy about that. They were not happy about that, and so when they couldn't flip Boebert, and this is one we actually had a discussion, I think it was about 2 weeks ago about this, and Scott and I were trying to figure out how this would go. And again, the idea was, well, if they flip Boebert, then that'll be over with. And surprisingly enough, it was like 427-1 was the vote. I mean, they all went. They all said, "Oh, heck with it." And I think that this turning point of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't agree with any of her policies. Let's remember, even this decision to be at the moment the sensible one in the Republican Party does not change the fact that she was the one chasing the kids from what was it, Parkland, down the street, asking them about hoaxes, and it's still, it still makes you're still a piece of shit. I mean, I guess that's the easy way I could say. That's like, I don't care. Political violence is never the answer, ever the answer, and it should be condemned and should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Any violence should, to be honest with you. But even if you're killed, it doesn't change the person you were in life. It doesn't automatically uplift you to something different. And I will speak to that to Charlie Kirk. Yeah, his ideas in life were not good, and his death, an absolute tragedy. Absolute tragedy, should never have happened. No one deserves that. But his political views and some of the things he said were misogynist. They were transphobic. I mean, they ran the whole scope of everything that most people just simply do not believe in. And so this change of Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't think it's some come to Jesus, moment for her. I think it was, I've read the writing on the wall. I've seen those before me get completely crucified. I'm going to get crucified. I'm not going to run because they're going to primary me. And her comment was, I don't want to put my voters through this, my good, sweet voters through this. Well, I got news for you, Marjorie. You'd have had a hard road ahead of you. Plain and simple.
Right. So, and she was also vested. So her benefits package is solid, and she's made plenty of money taking advantage of the fact that Congress people get inside information. She made lots of money doing that. So, just hopefully we never have to talk about her after today.
Hopefully. But, it's sort of like, the turd in the punch bowl, Scott. They always seem to keep showing up.
Well, one thing that I would like to add before we stop here that I think is connected to what's happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is the death threats and prosecution threats that, we've talked about that were been directed at those 6 Democratic representatives, to tell soldiers not to follow illegal orders. And I think that most people are missing the most obvious subtext here. And that is, from Trump's perspective, and that of MAGA Republicans more broadly, he's not simply above the law, he is the law. A crime is defined in their world, a crime is not defined by any statute or legal code, but by who commits it. So if he issues an order to the military, it is by definition legal. And anyone who tries to stop him or hold him accountable to written law is the actual criminal. And, this is the stance of every autocrat and the sign that we are not on the verge of, but we are living in an autocracy in which this can happen. And of course, this autocratic presumption has been sanctified by the MAGA justices who ruled that Trump can, in fact, commit any crime if it's performed as part of his official duties, whether that's murdering fishermen off the coast of South America, sending brown people to concentration camps and torture gulags without even a pretense of due process, whether it's ordering his national lynch mob to kill his political enemies, or enriching himself through the corrupt appropriation of taxpayer funds. He has been untouchable. And I think from the very beginning of Trump's political career, this impunity has characterized his life and in many ways has been his superpower. The fact that he can, in fact, and has gotten away with everything. Nobody has successfully held him to account, even with guilty verdicts. he escapes, doesn't do any time. Maybe he'll have to pay a fine, but this impunity has defined Trump's success as a business and political con man from the very beginning. He's been openly corrupt, lying, racist, predatory, cruel. And half the population, people on this call, find that repellent and infuriating. But it is also the case that the other half continues to experience it as powerfully seductive and admirable. It's in his base, it evokes what some people have called aspirational impunity, which is the fantasy that they too one day could get away with the kinds of crimes and transgressions that their leader has remained unaccountable for. I think that is really the message here. The message that threatening, investigating, prosecuting these 6 Democrats is sending, which is, I am the law. Or as Louis XIV said, l'état c'est moi, the state, it is me. That is the message.
Yep. Sure does sound like it. And it also makes you have to wonder, what illegal orders does Trump have in the back of his mind that he might want to issue to be followed? I mean, that has to be in the back of somebody's mind. It does. And are we talking about, I guess my real question is are we talking about this Venezuela thing? Is that really what this is all focused on? Because I've kind of been looking at some of the things going on. The Israel-Gaza thing is not really going as everybody wants it to. There's still the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which is not progressing as, Trump said to have that fixed in day one. And now we're presented with this thing with Venezuela, where we've got an aircraft carrier group where we're still continuing to blow up fishing boats that couldn't reach the United States if they had to. Is this the message that's being given? And when we think about this, we have to remember the head of the Southern Command, the admiral that was the head of the Southern Command, resigned, basically retired. And again, he's doing the normal military thing. He's not going to be out there telling anybody why. So it's just, I'm doing it, I'm out of politics, and I'm not going to speak to it. But you've got to ask why. Why would that be the case? And we also have to remember, in the last week, the dismissal of the commandant of the Naval Academy. I mean, there's all these things that kind of come together.
Mm-hmm. And
you
also
got to start asking yourself,
domestic.
Huh?
And also, sorry, I just wanted to add, Mark, also domestic, saying, well, we're going to use Chicago as a test there, and then we've got ICE now, and now they're where are they now? They're in Memphis, and they're also all over Raleigh, North Carolina.
The last time here near Raleigh, yeah.
Yeah, and people are hiding, and they're not going to work, and they're petrified. And
just one more thing, we were talking in another podcast about disinformation. One of the reasons for disinformation is to get people nodding their head at something that you say, and it starts small and it gets bigger and bigger. And we're at the phase right now where it's getting bigger and bigger, right? He's no longer just drawing a circle on a map to make a hurricane go where he thinks he wants it to go rather than where it actually is going. But once you start nodding your head and believing him, accepting the disinformation, he gets to do what Robert Cialdini talked about as far as consistency and is concerned, to get you to do more and more stuff, to get to accept more and more things. And that includes using troops in the interior of the United States against Posse Comitatus, and it includes having an undeclared war on Venezuela, and it includes, from what I've recently read, his continued interest in taking over Greenland, which has not actually gone away. It's been quiet because he floated it. It didn't go well. But he still has business people that he knows, a la Steve Witkoff, going out to Greenland and making threats and deals, offers and things like that. Panama as well. And, whatever it is that he wants to do, as long as he gets people nodding their heads, he can go further and further and further, right? I mean, for the military in Germany during World War II, they were all good until Hitler decided to invade the Soviet Union. And then the German generals began to say, I'm a general listening to a colonel, taking orders from a corporal. There's something wrong here. And they understood what a mistake he was making, but they couldn't stop it. And that led ultimately to Hitler's downfall. If he had stayed where he was, he conquered all of Europe, basically. England was where they were, and neither one was going to have any effect on the other. And as long as America stayed out of the war, he didn't have to worry about them. And so he basically got everything that he wanted, and he just had to take it one step further. And I do believe that that Trump is going to continue to expand on his program for whatever reason he wants to do it, and that people are going to continue to be more and more accepting of it. And the only thing, as we said before, that chips away at it seems to be this Epstein stuff.
Yep.
And part of what makes it something that people accept is the fact that all of this, I mean, almost all his crimes and corruption is being conducted in plain sight. And that carries its own sort of McLuhan-like message. The medium is the message here. In other words, the fact that I am doing this all in the open means that it's perfectly fine. There's no crime. I'm not trying to hide this. I'm entitled to do these things. So I'm doing them in plain sight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The shooting people in the Fifth Avenue phenomenon.
Yeah.
Which
Steal, being openly corrupt. I mean, he just released a list of the people who donated to his inauguration committee, and it reads like a list of people who are inside Trump right now. They basically bribed their way in, and he accepted their bribes and said, okay, now you're going to be in charge of this and you're going to be in charge of that. And he's got Witkoff out there doing horrible stuff with Russia, obviously coaching Russia on how to deal with Trump rather than coaching Trump on how to deal with Russia. And the whole thing is just like up is down and black is white.
Yep.
And all of this, I think, makes it imperative for the Republicans to remain where they are and make sure that the midterm elections go their way.
So, Stephen,
However, that
yeah.
has to happen.
Yeah. I got one last question for you before we have to go. I don't know if you're a fan of South Park.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they've been delightful.
We've talked about South Park and the parody going on now. What do you think that's doing to Trump's ego as a psychologist? What could be, how do you think that's impacting, if at all?
Well, he's definitely a narcissist of the thin-skinned variety.
Yes.
And, I think he is putting it in his ledger of payback and vengeance. And he hasn't quite figured out how to do it yet, I'm guessing, because he made this deal with Paramount. Paramount, fired Colbert for him. But and now South Park has this long contract that is hard to just undo. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I am certain that he is aware of it, if not watching it, and definitely seething and trying to figure out exactly how to extract vengeance. Time will tell.
May I ask one more question? What about, because this has been on my mind before the election, when I was afraid Trump was going to win. What about people like us, the little, not unimportant people who are just simple academics who are doing a podcast? Are we on this type of retribution list?
Well,
or will we
according to my last meetings with Donald Trump, I have no idea. I think that he's going to go after people who get the most publicity, because they're more effective at humiliating him. And I don't think that maybe this is wishful thinking, but I don't think people like us are going to be on his radar at the moment. Maybe if this became more popular, or I have no idea. I mean, I think about it. I certainly think about, will this event, will this appearance, will this interview be what pushes me into visibility and make me have to fly the 15 miles from where I am to Canada to get political asylum? I don't know. So your guess is as good as mine.
I don't think any slight is too small for him to react to.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll prioritize it, of course. He'll go after the big boys first, but he's got there's a Gestapo out there for us, waiting for us. And that it will happen if this continues along the lines that he wants it to continue. We were talking, you mentioned Paramount, and his friends are buying up all the media. I mean, they got the Hispanic media, right? Univision. He got rid of all of that, and it's led him to better numbers among Hispanics because that's the network they watch, and now he's got his propaganda on there as well. He's gonna do it for all the networks. If he doesn't like what ABC says, he's already gone after ABC, I guess, with Kimmel. But he's gonna threaten them, and then eventually he'll have somebody take some kind of action against them, and it's gonna, the longer he continues, it's going to continue. But and put out the messages that he wants them to put out. Eventually, he'll get down to the podcasters.
I think the only thing that's going to stop him will be fissures among other Republicans who see aligning with him as contrary to their political and literal lives. So let's hope that happens before he gets around to us.
Well, I'm the only one that lives in a deep red state, so I'm more worried about my friends and neighbors than I am about Trump at this point. But I actually don't worry about it at all. I mean, I really don't. I don't.
You're out there. I'm sure you guys got plenty of tiki torches out there when they start gathering them all together and marching on your house.
But if they come out to the pool, into the Oasis bar that we have built out there, just remember there's a Glock somewhere hidden. That's just the way it goes. Stephen, it's been a pleasure as always. We got to have you back at some time when you got some time, because it has been a lot of fun.
Sure. Yeah, it's been delightful.
Dr. Ducat, Stephen Ducat, will be back. We will announce when he'll be back in the new year to join us again and answer updated questions.
Absolutely. And we'd like to remind everyone that starting in 2026, our format will be changing. Instead of doing it 5 days a week with our 25 to 30-minute episodes, we will be going to 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, with more extended 45-minute episodes where we're going to be able to continue to answer more listener emails and have more in-depth conversations with guests. And we have other guests that want to be on. And it's
and for the same pay, right?
And for the yeah, I'll send you a bottle
3 days,
of scotch.
Woo, baby, 3 days a week for the same pay that we got.
3 days a week. I'll send you a bottle of scotch, Scott. It'll be all right. And a couple of cigars. You'll be fine. But yeah, we are going to be making that change, and you'll be hearing more about that as we approach the new year. And again, we have more guests. We get so many publicists that are contacting us now. It's like crazy. So right here at the publication headquarters of the Bound Estate, we're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And hopefully we'll come up with an answer with that. Again, Stephen Ducat, not spelled like Gul Dukat from Star Trek. That was all my fault. It really has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, it's been a joy.
And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Sciences, the JICS. This open access journal, double peer-reviewed, provides a platform for emerging scholars to publish their work and engage in meaningful dialogue across disciplines. The JICS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis and is published through the NovaWorks Scholarly Repository at Nova Southeastern University. You'll find a link to the journal in our episode description.